Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Family Reflections. So, as you might notice, this episode is a little bit different. This episode is kind of a recap, right? There's some things that we said in some of the past episodes that I think you might have missed. Some relatively important stuff that I just want us to go through and just revisit, right? So first off, a couple of weeks ago, not a couple, maybe 15 to 20 weeks ago, me and Kinner, we went over the bike life and we had an officer on the episode and we talked about a lot of things. Just this past weekend, I was driving, right? And, I'm turning a corner, three guys on motorcycles pass me. And then the guys at the back, there was the rider and he had a passenger at the back of the motorcycle. And this guy popped a wheelie, I think to just show me he was doing it or something, I don't know. But he pops a wheelie and then his rider at the back of him lets one hand go and is nearly touching the road. It was wild, okay? But the whole point is I want us to revisit this particular clip talking about road safety, especially for motorcyclists in St. Lucia. So check it out. Let's go. Let's get started. Boom. You're someone who has a motorcycle. You have been riding for years.
Yes.
And so very often people who try to talk to bikers and people who ride, they don't ride themselves. So they come in
Exactly.
and they say, "Oh, guys, let's say motorbikes are, you're always
Yeah.
causing trouble on the road." But you are actually a rider, so you
I
are
ride them myself.
uniquely, yeah, you're
Oh yes.
uniquely positioned.
He's
Yeah.
better positioned,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. And I can tell you, I mean, I've investigated accidents where if motorcycles persons have died or injured. And a lot of the times, it's just the careless and reckless actions of those motorcyclists, on those motorcycles. I mean, as a rider, you should know, one, that you're on a small vehicle, which is a motorcycle.
Mhm.
So the likelihood of drivers to see you is much less. And a lot of motorcyclists are not even aware that, for example, your headlights on a motorcycle are supposed to remain on at all times whilst you're riding. During the day, your headlight is supposed to be on high beam. Why? Because when you're riding, because of the size of your vehicle, when your headlights are on, a driver can easily see you either from his rearview mirror or from ahead approaching. And if you look at modern motorcycles, actually come with a function that the lights don't go off. Period. So as long as you start the engine, the lights come on. The only thing you can do is high or low beam, but you cannot shut the light off. I see a trend. I don't know if it's some YouTube video or whatever you saw it. I see a lot of motorcyclists riding on the highway with the hazards light on. I mean, that is ridiculous. Your hazard lights are not supposed to be what causes people to see you.
All right.
For example, if you're riding in front of me and you have your hazards on, okay, and it's your intention to turn right, how will I know that you want to turn right when your hazards are blinking? Exactly.
Do we currently have defensive driving classes for motorcyclists on island?
Not that I know. I know that I think they take the ordinary defensive drive, because basically the rules of the road for riding a motorcycle or driving a motorcycle and driving a vehicle is the same thing. You have to practice the same, caution. You have to obey the same laws, because the motorcycle, as is legislated, is a motor vehicle. So it falls under the same category as a vehicle. Yes, I mean riding. It involves. It's different because a motorcycle is not a vehicle. Sorry, a motorcycle is not as big as an ordinary car or pickup or whatnot. But you have to, as a rider, you have to obey the rules of the road, just like an ordinary vehicle.
Okay, so next up, this is a clip from Ice Candy. Ice Candy is this small business that started up. They produce a number of treats, naturally flavored, naturally made, fruits, popsicles, if I'm saying it correctly. And one of my main takeaways from this episode is that you can start small. Oftentimes we have big ideas and we have big ambitions, and because we don't have the money to start or we don't have the time to start, we kind of get discouraged. But here's a clip from their story that was kind of inspiring to me and just reminded me that if you just start out with these tiny baby steps, you're going to get where you're going. You're going to get to your destination. Don't give up. Just get started. Check it out.
Area, we were learning as we went along, and we learned quite a lot. So, startup capital, that was one of the issues that we had, but we were soon able to overcome by selling a few of our liquids at the school. So when I was off work, I used to take a walk to Plainview Combined School and sell to the students. His mom used to have a little cooler selling to the students by the gate. And
Also in Viewport as well.
in Viewport, we took a walk around Viewport, and it wasn't what it is now.
Right.
It was so much different back
yeah.
in the time. But we got reviews from a lot of people, and we were always concerned about the reaction of our customers.
Right.
Would they enjoy that? How are they thinking of the product? And based on the feedback that we got from people, we were able to make changes and develop our products and make it
Right.
much better. So startup capital, what would you say is one of our obstacles?
Another thing that came to our surprise is when we went to the health department, right? Because we thought it was like, yeah, we could just start a business and maybe do it in the house or something, but it was more than just that.
Yeah.
When we went to the health department, they gave us a list of requirements that we needed in terms of, the facility and all these sort of things that we needed to put into place. And here's another setback that we had, the other setback that we had in setting up a place. And her dad was extremely instrumental in getting us a place. Well, the business is now located in a 40-foot container, which was retrofitted. Since he's a contractor, he gave that to us, so
Right.
yeah, so
we had to put in a
we had
lot
to
of
put in a
work
lot of work.
and pull in our
Our
resources
resources,
and to make it
Yeah.
happen.
This conversation, this next clip coming up, it was really inspiring to me. Chadia, Chadia is a visionary. What she's been able to do with her company is phenomenal, right? So check it out. The thing is, a lot of us have this idea that Africa is not the place to be. Africa is just poverty and, the little Feed the Children episodes where there's a little fly right by their mouth right here. That's kind of the view we have of Africa. A lot of us, unfortunately. But Chadia in this episode was able to show us a little bit, able to show us something different, right? Check it out. I had a good time. A lot of Caribbean people kind of look down on some African countries, I believe. A lot of people,
Yeah, it's
especially
true.
people who are not informed of what it really is.
It's not even just informed. I remember when I was coming, my parents are older, so my parents are in the 50s and 60s. My dad is 60, and they were very skeptical about me moving to the continent. And a lot of people were like, "Chadia, kiss out kai fela." Not just my parents, but just people Lucia that I would speak to. Like, out of all the places, why would you want to? I was like, yo, Africa is booming. This is where it's at right now. And they just couldn't understand. And at the time I was going, I think the year of return was something that was new, where Ghana was basically pushing a tourism campaign where they were encouraging people of African heritage to come back home. In a sense, not to remain, but to visit and see, where it is you have originated from,
Right.
to get a grasp of the culture. And so much of what I've seen here is so similar to what I grew up with at home. It's amazing.
Stuff like what exactly? Like, what have you seen
So,
that is similar?
So when I was about a month after I came to Ghana, I was traveling from Accra, the city, to another major city, Kumasi. And the way the women tie their hair, my grandmother used to tie her hair like that when we go to the country. The way they operate is just so reminiscent of a simpler time back home. the way they cook food, their customs and values. You go to, like if you go to a house in a rural area, you don't live without eating food. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. It reminded me of the few times we walked to the country with my grandmother, the fruits, the river. I mean, it reminded me of a simpler time, and just a lot of things they do just remind me of home. Like I'm just like, okay, this reminds me of home. A lot of their mannerisms, a lot of things they do. Obviously, there are some cultural disparities which may have emerged because obviously we're taken from one place and brought to another place.
Right.
But there are very many similarities in African and Caribbean women, for sure, and the men as well.
Here's the thing. I strongly believe that healthcare is a human right. I do. I don't think anybody should be, denied medicine or denied care or surgery because they don't have the money, right? So this conversation with Dr. Gabriel, it just really opened my eyes to what's going on, especially regarding healthcare in St. Lucia. Check it out. I think this is something that we need to fix. If you have a voice wherever you are, make some noise. Let's get this fixed.
So, I mean, many years ago, I remember treating patients for prostate cancer. Now, prostate cancer generally is a type of illness that affects older men. The literature says 70, the average age of 70 and above, and so on. However, we found that in St. Lucia, younger men were getting prostate cancer. Now, when the prostate cancer develops to such an extent that it becomes resistant to the common levels of affordable treatments, about 10 years ago, there was this one drug, a wonder drug that was injectable, but at that time, it would cost something like 5,000 EC per 3-month supply. 5,000.
Wow.
So I found that my older men who had lived their lives, had been successful businessmen, had their savings intact and so on, appeared to be doing better because they were able to afford the medication. Whereas our younger men who should have been doing better, but because they were so young and had not reached full potential and these savings, were unable to afford that medication and therefore perished faster than the older men. Wow. which should have been the reverse.
And right there, that's so striking to me because I don't think it really bothers me that people pass away because they don't have the money. They don't have the money to buy treatment. That really bothers me.
Absolutely. I would say that, I mean, that is a major factor in almost all our illnesses. In spite of the fact that, we try to implement universal health care for diabetes and hypertension, we still have persons with major obstacles to paying for medications. And in a way, we created our own monster, right. In a way, because if you go to St. Jude Hospital or OKU or Victoria, and you've been prescribed antibiotics, the doctor prescribed a week of antibiotics or a month's supply of antihypertensives and so on, you probably pay $5 for the whole prescription. $5 EC for the whole prescription. So you take that very prescription, that same one, and you take it to a private pharmacy, and you're now paying $75, $150, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
For the same drugs. So what happens as a consequence is that in the public health facilities, you have paid $5 for something that costs $175. So eventually what happens is that in that pharmacy, you come back 2 months later and they no longer have that medication.
Yeah, because the it was so far underpriced that Absolutely. Everybody just bought it up.
So everybody now complains, oh, they don't have this medication in the pharmacy. How come they don't have this medication? Well, because you didn't pay a suitable amount for it, but of the true cost,
Yeah.
a suitable amount of the true cost for it. Now, I mean, there are pros and cons to this, but the fact is, healthcare is also expensive.
Yeah, but hold
And
on. Let me just clarify something here. In the case where this person is paying $5 for a $175 thing, who's footing the rest of the bill? The government?
the government is footing the rest of the bill.
Oh boy.
The government is footing the rest of the bill. And that's why the government is unable to sustain the recurring costs of these medications. And in the OECS, we have something called the Pharmaceutical Procurement Service, which means these OECS countries put money together to buy medication in bulk so that it's cheaper. Notwithstanding the savings they make buying in bulk, it's still more costly than what it's been sold for.
I really want to know how are those drugs priced? Like, who's deciding that this thing costs $5?
Right.
Who's setting up that retail price?
Well, unfortunately, there is no strategic cost setting. It is just $5 because it's a prescription in the public sector. It does not matter what's on that prescription, or $10,
That
or
doesn't sound right at
$15.
all. Yeah, that doesn't sound
That's
right.
what it is. There is no, correlation with market price and this and that and the other and so on. It is $15 or $5 or $10.
In this next clip, I'm talking to someone who has a little bit more insight than I do into, the legal system in St. Lucia. And, right now, as we speak, as you're watching this, there are people who have not been able to secure a fair trial for their accused crimes, right? Some of them are probably innocent, right? So I really feel like the government of St. Lucia should get a few more people in what is apparently called the legal aid office, right? You'll see why. Let's check it out. Okay, I'm imagining a situation where someone is unable to pay for legal representation and this person is not capable of defending themselves, right? Which is a situation I can see happening very often. What is the other option there?
Okay, well, many lawyers in St. Lucia, they, as part of our charge as public officers, I believe we have a moral duty to assist certain persons when they cannot afford legal representation. But what tends to happen when you put yourself out as that kind of person is that people tend to abuse your goodwill, and everybody who comes to your office expects to walk out having given you a brief to do, and there's no money following it. So whereas maybe in 10 cases you can do 1 or 2 pro bono, but you still have to eat. So what the government has done recently was to set up what is called the legal aid office. Now, the legal aid office, unfortunately, now it is only manned by one legal officer. And that legal officer will assist people who have been charged with criminal offenses and cannot afford to pay. Now, where the charge is murder, usually the state, apart from the legal aid office, the state will pay the local lawyers. There are some local lawyers who are well known to represent persons who cannot afford to defend themselves. So the state will pay counsel for those people charged with murder. But I believe for the other offenses, the state, you would have to go and face the legal aid office. Unfortunately, the legal aid office is this one lawyer for now. So it is difficult for, say, maybe the 100 or more persons who are now on remand who cannot afford a lawyer to look to the legal aid office.
Right.
Whereas the legal aid office will look to assist everybody. People have to take a line, as it were, They take a line, and when he gets to you, then it's your turn.
Yeah.
So for that, the remand process, the fact that you cannot afford your own defense makes the remand process even more onerous. But I believe since it is the duty of, or the obligation of the prosecution to prove the guilt of that accused, because you have arrested me, as I said earlier, I'm not bound to say a single thing. You arrested me, you charged me, find me guilty. Okay, so if the defendant takes that position, then I believe the state has an obligation to make available to those persons more lawyers to make defenses for them from the legal aid office.
Right. And I was actually going to come to that question because it sounds like, first of all, I'm happy that we have the legal aid office. I can't imagine what it was like before we had that legal aid office. But I think it sounds like it's very, like it really needs,
It's on demand.
yeah, it's on demand. And yeah, what can be done to change that? How difficult is it for us to hire more lawyers to help in the legal aid office?
Well, only the government can answer that question.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Family Reflections. This was a different episode from our regular scheduled programming, but I hope you were able to pull as much from it as I was, and I'm looking forward to you joining us again. Family Reflections is bi-weekly, so you see the Monday after next, we'll be back. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.